The U.S. striking a big blow against al-Qaeda, taking out a top terror leader in Yemen. Naser al-Wuhayshi was a former aide to Osama bin Laden, and he commanded the al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, and the group considered the most capable of carrying out an attack on U.S. soil. It also claimed responsibility for the Charlie Hebdo terror attacks. You'll remember those in Paris. Well, Tom Joscelyn is a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and senior editor of the Long War Journal, and he joins us now with more. Thank you for joining us, first of all.
No, thanks for having me.
So this is being called the most important terrorist killing since Osama bin Laden. Is that overstating it?
I don't think so. I think this guy was probably the most significant al-Qaeda operative on the planet outside of Ayman al-Zawahiri, the current head of al-Qaeda. This is a guy who was appointed to the position of general manager within al-Qaeda. Now, this is a role that basically gave him responsibility far outside of the Arabian Peninsula. We detected his communications as far as West Africa, Syria, South Asia, elsewhere. So he's really a guy who had a lot of influence within al-Qaeda.
And so who would have been surrounding him at the time?
Well, he could have had any number of operatives around him at the time of the strike. It's really interesting to find that he finally did succumb to this, because he was one of these guys who was known to be very careful with his communications, known to be very sensitive to basically the security protocols that al-Qaeda has put in place, and yet he still got caught. Yeah,
and we actually have some video of him. He was taking place in a meeting. It was some sort of al-Qaeda meeting. About 100 or so were there.
Large gathering,
A large gathering,
right.
And he was clearly in the middle of, and didn't appear to be too concerned.
Right. It's sort of the irony of this. This isn't that old, this footage here of him at this meeting. And at this time, this is something they've actually put on to show sort of a show of force within Yemen. But this was really the exception to the rule, because this is not a guy that's put out a lot of videos. He didn't put out a lot of audio statements. This is not a guy who you would detect his communications a lot of times, and yet clearly he was still helping to run things globally for al-Qaeda.
So a new leader's already been named.
Right.
This has happened before, where you kill one leader, another one is named almost immediately.
Right.
So what happens now? We try to target him?
Well, see, this is the essential question of all this, because it goes down to the heart of the problem with the strategy. Right now, the strategy is very much what we call a counterterrorism-centric strategy, where you basically take off top leaders or take out top leaders, and you think the whole thing's going to crumble. Unfortunately, they're not organized that way. The way they're organized is as a guerrilla army, insurgency, and so they have multiple nodes of command. So a guy like Wuhayshi is incredibly valuable to al-Qaeda. It's going to be tough to find somebody of his caliber to replace him, but they have plenty of leaders on the bench basically to step up.
And what do we know about the person that has been named to follow him, al-Rimi?
Yeah, Qasim al-Rimi is a veteran, another veteran al-Qaeda operative, had experience all the way back before 9/11 in Afghanistan. He's a guy who's been leading AQAP's military chain of command inside Yemen. So this is a guy who's very experienced. He's also co-founder, along with Wuhayshi, of AQAP. So they're in capable hands with al-Rimi.
So do you think that they will change what they're doing, their modus operandi, so to speak?
Probably not. There'll be probably some disruptions within al-Qaeda's sort of internal structure in terms of who's now the general manager, who's appointed that position. It's not clear who's going to get that inside al-Qaeda. It's not clear how they're going to reorganize themselves. But overall, I think they're going to keep pressing forward their strategy inside Yemen.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.